My sister-in-law Karen once told me I'd burn in hell for wearing flip-flops to church, so I should have known babysitting her kids would end in disaster. When she called me last summer, sobbing about a work emergency, I didn't expect to be accused of turning her son into someone she'd later scream was ruined. Here's how it all went down. And trust me, it's a wild ride. It was a sticky July afternoon in our small Ohio town, the kind where the air smells like cut grass and regret. Karen, my brother's wife, had always been a whirlwind of opinions, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. She'd married Tom, my soft-spoken older brother, and turned his life into a stage for her drama. That day, she burst into my apartment, mascara streaking, begging me to watch her two boys, Liam 10 and Noah 8, because her boss had threatened to fire her if she missed another shift. I'm Alex, 25 single, and more comfortable with Netflix than kids, but Tom was out of town, and Karen had no one else. "Your family," she pleaded, her voice cracking like she was auditioning for a soap opera. I sighed, picturing my quiet weekend evaporating, but said yes. Family. Right. The boys were dropped off with backpacks stuffed with snacks and strict instructions: no sugar after 6 p.m., no video games past an hour, and absolutely no weird ideas. Karen's eyes lingered on me when she said that last part, like my bachelor lifestyle was a contagious disease. Liam, the older one, had her sharp cheekbones and a quiet intensity, always watching, like he was solving a puzzle no one else could see. Noah was a chatterbox, all messy hair and endless questions, tugging at my sleeve to ask if I'd ever seen a real dinosaur. They were good kids, but Karen's rules felt like a leash around their spirits. Day one was chaos. Noah spilled juice on my couch. Liam argued that dinosaurs could have survived if they'd learned to swim, and I realized I had no idea how to cook for kids. I ordered pizza sue me, and we settled into an uneasy rhythm. By day two, I figured out they love stories. Liam especially lit up when I told him about my college days, sneaking into concerts and dreaming of being a writer. He'd ask questions like, "Did you ever feel like you didn't fit in?" His voice was so soft I barely caught it, but his eyes were desperate for an answer. I told him I still felt that way sometimes, and he nodded, like we'd signed a secret pact. Noah just wanted stories about pirates, so I made up one about Captain Noah and his fearless crew. By the third day, we were buddies. I taught them how to make paper airplanes, and Liam shyly showed me a drawing he'd done a boy with wings, flying over a town that looked a lot like ours. "That's me," he whispered, then clammed up, like he'd said too much. I didn't push, but I felt a tug in my chest. Kids like Liam don't open up easily, and I wasn't about to betray that trust. That night, Karen called to check in. Her voice clipped. "They behaving you're not letting them watch those violent shows. Are you?" I assured her we were fine, but her tone made my skin crawl. She didn't ask about the boys' smiles or their stories, just rules. Then came the sleepover. Liam wanted to watch a superhero movie, but Noah begged for something with animals. We compromised on a nature documentary about penguins, which honestly was more intense than any blockbuster. Liam was glued to the screen, his eyes wide as the narrator talked about penguins finding their mates for life. "Do they ever pick the wrong one?" he asked, his voice small. I laughed, saying, "Sometimes, but they figure it out." He didn't laugh back. Later, as Noah snored on the couch, Liam sat next to me, picking at his nails. "Uncle Alex," he said, barely audible, "what if someone likes someone they're not supposed to?" My heart stopped. I'm no expert, but I knew this wasn't about penguins. I took a deep breath. "Liam, liking someone is never wrong. It's what you do with those feelings that matters. Be kind, be honest, and you'll be okay." He looked at me like I'd handed him a lifeline, then hugged his knees and changed the subject. I didn't know what he was grappling with, but I knew he needed someone to listen, not judge. I thought that was the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. Karen picked them up the next morning, all smiles until she saw Liam's drawing of the wing boy taped to my fridge. "What's this?" she snapped. Like it was evidence of a crime. I shrugged, saying, "He's talented." She didn't respond, just hustled the boys out. A week later, Tom called, his voice tight. "Alex, what did you say to Liam?" Before I could answer, he said Karen was telling everyone, neighbors, church friends, even the PTA, that I'd confused Liam, that I'd filled his head with ideas that made him act different. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, until he said, "She's saying you made him gay." My stomach dropped. What I choked out, Tom sighed, like he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. "She says Liam's been asking questions about boys liking boys, and she's blaming you. She's telling everyone you're a bad influence." I was floored. Me, a guy who barely knew how to keep kids alive for a weekend, accused of reshaping someone's identity. It was absurd, but Karen's gossip was spreading like wildfire. By the next day, I was getting side-eye at the grocery store. "Mrs. Henderson, our old neighbor," whispered to her friend as I passed. "That's the one who corrupted Karen's boy." I confronted Karen at their house, my hands shaking with anger. "What are you telling people?" I demanded. She stood in her kitchen, arms crossed, her face a mask of righteous fury. "You let Liam watch things he shouldn't have. You encouraged him to be unnatural." I tried to explain about the penguins, the drawing, our talk, but she cut me off. "You're not a parent. Alex, you don't get it. He's my son, and I'm protecting him. Protecting him from what I wanted to scream, from being himself." Tom stood there silent, his eyes on the floor. I felt betrayed. He'd always been my rock, but now he was letting Karen paint me as a villain. Liam was upstairs, probably hearing every word. I wanted to storm up and tell him he was enough, but I didn't. I left, slamming the door, my heart pounding with a mix of rage and guilt. Had I said something wrong? Had I overstepped? The next few weeks were hell. The rumors grew. Karen told the church I was pushing an agenda, and half the town believed her. My boss at the local paper, where I wrote freelance articles, even asked if I was causing trouble. I wanted to disappear, but I couldn't stop thinking about Liam. What was this doing to him? Was he scared, hearing his mom turn his questions into a scandal? I called Tom, begging him to talk to Liam, to make sure he was okay. "He's fine," Tom said, but his voice was hollow. One night, I found a crumpled note in my mailbox, written in Liam's careful handwriting. "I'm sorry, Uncle Alex. I didn't mean to get you in trouble." My throat tightened. This kid, barely 10, was carrying the weight of his mom's prejudice. I drove to their house that night, uninvited, and knocked until Tom answered. "I need to see Liam." I said. Karen appeared, ready to fight, but Tom held up a hand. "Let him," he said quietly. Liam was in his room, drawing another winged boy, this one with a sad smile. I sat on his bed and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. You're perfect, just as you are." He started crying, and so did I. He told me he'd heard kids at school repeating what Karen said, calling him weird. I hugged him, promising I'd always be there, no matter what. The next day, I wrote an article for the paper, not caring if it cost me my job. I titled it "The Cost of Gossip" and poured out the truth, not naming Karen or Liam, but exposing how rumors tear families apart. I wrote about love, about how it's not a crime, no matter who it's for, and how kids deserve to grow up without fear. The article went viral in our small town, and suddenly, people were talking not about me, but about Liam, about kids like him, about acceptance. Karen didn't speak to me for months, but Tom started calling again, apologizing for staying quiet. He said Liam was doing better, even starting to smile again. At a family barbecue last week, Liam ran up to me, holding a new drawing, a boy with wings, flying free, no sadness in his eyes. Karen watched from across the yard, her face unreadable. Maybe she'll come around, maybe not. But I know one thing: Liam's going to be okay, because he's got people who love him for who he is. This whole mess taught me something. Family isn't just blood, it's the people who stand by you when the world turns cruel. It's the ones who listen, who fight for you, who remind you that love is never wrong. So, what do you think, was Karen right to protect her son, or did her fear hurt him more? Share your thoughts. I'm all ears.